Hello, everyone. Steve Westman. Welcome to this special edition of the Audiophile Roundtable, an exclusive announcement by Patrick Milligan of the A&R for Rhino High Fidelity. Here we are. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Steve.
Hi. How you doing?
Nice to be on again. I'm doing okay. How about you?
Really good. I wanted to thank you so much for coming on the show and allowing our viewers to basically get this exclusive announcement before you guys post it on your website, and that will happen this Friday, if I believe, correct?
They will be on sale this Friday. There might be an announcement before that, but
okay, perfect. So excellent. Yeah. So thank you for doing this today. I know it was a lot of fun last time. I think we'll start. I guess we'll start with, of course, I'll do the jazz first, and I think you're going to let me do the rock album today. I get to do the
go ahead.
Yes. Okay. Well, that'll be fun. And then I think we'll let the viewers know after we've made those announcements. You also have another special announcement.
I do.
Oh, ooh. Well, this is gonna be fun, and then after that special announcement, we'll take it for the hour. We'll go till 2 o'clock our time, Pacific Standard Time. After that, hopefully, we'll have some time to answer any questions that the viewers might have about Rhino, and maybe some of the stuff that you're working on, that type of thing. So yeah. So again, thank you for doing this, and let's get it going. Go for it.
All right. Well, Steve mentioned we're going to announce the jazz title first. Though Birdie tells me some of you may already know this. Ornette Coleman, Change of the Century. See how glossy it is? Again, with our special signature spine wrap. A really wonderful picture of Ornette and Don Cherry, outstanding in their field. And my favorite part of these always, because I'm such a geek for tape boxes and whatnot, the insert with the original reproduction of the original tape box, side A and side B. And inside, we have an interview with Bones Howe, who was the engineer for this record. Dan Daly interviewed him actually for a Tom Waits article in Sound on Sound several years ago, and was kind enough to let us use the section that he had, the little sidebar on Bones Howe. So Bones gets into a lot of detail about the setup, the equipment, the microphones and stuff. So we've reproduced pictures of the mics that he used and one of Ornette's plastic alto saxophones. So that is the jazz title, and it sounds great, which I think Kevin can attest to, or Steve rather. Sorry, Kevin cut it, so he could attest to it too. But
I can. I mean, I was fortunate enough to get a promo copy. This is the thing about Change of the Century. I mean, if anyone's a big Ornette Coleman fan, you look at the Shape of Jazz to Come. That was, I guess, released in May of 1959. We have the Change of the Century 6 months later. So I mean, this almost could have been a double album, like the Shape of Jazz to Change of the Century. I mean, it was the same quartet, which is fascinating to me. And these guys were really coming to their own at this point in 1959. And there was one difference. I mean, we had, of course, the quartet was, of course, Ornette Coleman, Don Cherry, Charlie Hayden, and Billy Higgins on drums. We were talking about this at the beginning, right, Patrick? I mean, Don Cherry used a pocket trumpet in Change of the Century, where in Shape of Jazz, according to my notes or whatever, he used a cornet. I'm not sure how much different the sound is. I think it's probably the same sound, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that they may have just been using the terms interchangeably too.
Okay.
That's certainly something that is a hallmark of Don Cherry, and also Ornette with the plastic saxophone, which has a very unique sound. So in addition to, to just the free improvisation and kind of, lack of structure, for another way of putting it, it's just they sort of brought just a unique tone and timbre to it too with those instruments. So,
and I mean, Kevin Gray was, of course, mastered and cut this album. Kevin knows how to cut jazz records. I mean, there's no questioning that. I mean, I'm sure when you got this test press and you're blown away by what you heard. I got to listen
like being there. Yeah.
It is. I mean, you always hear, oh, it's like being in the room with Coleman and Cherry, but it really is. I mean, it's system dependent. That's a lot of things we've gotten into in my shows last little while. Is obviously depends on your system. Depends on your gear as well. But Kevin, the way he cuts it, I don't think he messes around. I mean, it's the master engineer's secret sauce. I mean, Kevin's probably not going to spill the beans on what he's doing in terms of making right. I mean, it's like McDonald's telling us their secret, Big Mac sauce. They're not gonna do that. But I did find
that's a truth I don't want. But
no, exactly. But I did find on this record, I mean, it's not something I had not owned this before. Okay, but I really thought side 2 was a lot stronger than side 1. Of course, the title track was the last track of the record as well. I just felt that they really came into their own by side 2, and this was only recorded over a 2-day period in October of 1959. So I mean, I think most of these tracks were done in one take, if I'm not mistaken, right? So
in the notes it talks about how they did rehearse these other sessions, so they were kind of ready to go in and do the stuff. And you mentioned too, we were talking about how it kind of sounds like you're in the room. Mm-hmm. Read the notes, and Bones talks about the mic setup. You understand why that is, because it is very much about getting mics around the room and getting the sound of that. So. And most people don't really think of Bones Howe as being an engineer for jazz records, and especially music. I mean, he's so much more of a pop guy, and you think of Association and Turtles and stuff like that. But and Tom Waits for that matter too.
Yeah, no, I think having Kevin master it and cut it. I mean, he has that ear for jazz. I mean, of course, he has the ear for rock. So I mean, this album. I mean, this is an audiophile cut. This is absolutely an audiophile cut. Anyone that gets orders this album are going to be very pleased with what they hear. It's incredible sounding. Like I said, on my system, it sounds great. I have the opportunity to obviously interchange it. I've got a lot of different systems I can listen to it on. So. It sounds really good. I think if anyone gets it, they're going to be very happy. And of course, I mean, we never talk about this as much. It's the price range. I mean, these are $39 and $39.99, I believe, right? Per album. This is amazing. And yes, Dean was mentioned. It's limited to 5,000. Correct, Patrick?
It is. Okay. Indeed.
And there's one thing I noticed on the liner notes that Coleman was talking about, because I mean, it's an avant-garde, right? I mean, it's very much free jazz. I mean, just go and do it. I mean, there's not a lot of a little bit of rehearsal, but not a ton. But yeah, I mean, he was saying too, and I made a note here in the line. Made a note here. When our group plays, before we start out to play, we do not have any idea what the end result will be. Each player is free to contribute what he feels in the music at any given moment. Our final results depend entirely on the musicianship, emotional makeup, and taste of the individual member. I mean, there it is.
Yeah, which really makes me want to hear outtakes, because think of how different they would all be.
No kidding, yeah. Is there any outtake boxes of tape that you guys have?
I think people know this story, but back in, I think like the mid 70s, I can't remember the exact year, the Atlantic tape library that was stored above a bicycle shop in a wooden building caught on fire.
Oh no.
A lot of what was in that building, because we still have master tapes. I think a lot of what was in there were session tapes and outtake reels and things like that. And every once in a while we run across some stuff. I worked on the Coltrane CD box, the complete Atlantic set, back in 95 or something. And we were putting that together, desperately trying to find some additional material, and there just wasn't anything. And we had it all about ready to go. And I get a call from the vault one day, and they're like, "Oh my God, you're not going to believe it. We were putting tapes away, and we found this tape on the shelf that's Coltrane outtakes." It's like a producer who had worked on a subsequent, outtakes record had the tape at home or something, apparently, and it didn't get burned up. So we were able to add some stuff to that. But it's hit and miss for that era.
So Marty Chip here, he's asking again, when will these be ready to order? It'll be this Friday. Coming Friday on the Rhino website.
Rhino.com, January 12th.
There you go. Should we just address the packaging, shipping stuff?
Yes, we should.
Let's just do that.
I should let everybody know. I know you're all frustrated. I am incredibly frustrated too. And it's a bad look for us. It's really frustrating to put all this work into these packages to make them beautiful and gorgeous, which I think they are, and then have them get mangled in shipping. And we, the people that handle that for us, I am not really connected with. The rest of our sort of Rhino.com team deals some with them, production, but we have really been pushing them to up, be much more careful in how they're doing this. They were supposedly using those better shippers, and I think the Doobie Brothers and Herbie Hancock went out with those, but I think people still had some issues. So we take it very seriously. I can tell you the Rhino.com team is super frustrated by that, and we're pushing really hard to get that taken care of. And I know that customer service can be kind of slow. I do apologize about that too. And I know last time I was on here, something came up about me not giving out my email address, and I just kind of have to defend that by saying I'm not in customer service, I'm in A&R, and since customer service isn't my job, I can't really take that on. I just don't have the time. And Steve has forwarded a few things to me from people that have contacted him directly, and I'm trying to help those people out. So
and I want them to keep doing that as well, Patrick, as well. So I mean, they have my email, it's on my profile. I'd love to help out there because I know you're a busy man, and I want people to be happy because these are great titles.
I want people to be happy too. These, like I say, it's really frustrating to put all this work into these things and make them as nice as they are, but getting them to people just seems to be a real challenge for the team that deals with that. And I don't mean to badmouth those people, but yeah, the whiplash mailers. Yeah, that's what we used last time. I was told, and I think I did get some feedback from customers that they did, and some of them came perfectly fine, but there were some issues with others. So I'm constantly trying to deal with that, and we'll get it worked out. I do apologize to everybody, and we'll try to make it right. So.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. If anyone has issues, I have no problem forwarding it to Patrick, and hopefully, from there we can help everyone out that has issues with any of the shipping. If there's anything damaged, let's cross our fingers. Though this time there's not.
I'm hoping. Really hoping.
I saw a question go through by. I'm not going to go back up and look for it, but they were asking on Friday: is there a certain time this will go live to order?
It could be midnight.
So midnight on like midnight Friday. Okay.
Probably, yeah, I think so.
Okay. Excellent. Well, there you go. So I think what we should do, I mean, I know there's gonna be a lot of questions about how you go about picking these titles. I know you have a huge catalog to basically choose from. And I think a lot of people get frustrated because they want certain titles. But I think today, after we make the second announcement, I really like to get into the processes so everyone sort of knows your job and understand it's not as easy as, oh, I'm going to call up Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin and we're going to do all of his records. I don't think it's as easy as cut and dry as that.
If it were that easy, we would be scheduling those Led Zeppelin hi-fis for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to be ruled out. I mean, that's the pie in the sky. So we'll definitely try. But yeah, that's a heavy lift.
So breaking news today, you will try the Led Zeppelin tapes with Jimmy Page, possibly if you can. You'll definitely make those calls.
If we can talk them into it's just tough. He's very hands-on, and having Kevin Gray cut from tape is something that's going to take some convincing.
I would be amazing to get Jimmy Page and Kevin Gray in the room. I would love to see. That would be some cool video.
It sure would.
There you go. So there you go. That's some fun news. So that would be amazing to have.
I mean, honestly, I think we talked about this a little bit last time. When we started off this series, we kind of didn't really know what to expect. And we scheduled some things that maybe weren't super, top shelf in terms of names, great albums, I think, and great sounding records. But I think we were looking a little bit at things that maybe hadn't been done to death, hopefully. And some things that deserve some respect and just that were really great sounding records. So, and I think with the success of the first few releases, and especially the Cars, we kind of looked at it again and thought, okay, we might need to sort of up the ante here a little bit and shoot a little bit higher for some bigger things. So hi from Switzerland. Wow, cool.
Love it. So, and that's, and I should ask you, how has the reaction or sales been? I know you can't give us numbers. Are you happy with the numbers so far and what's happened? Okay.
Yeah, and I think the Cars is the only one that's really sold through, but they've all done quite well, and I think that because of that, we've decided to sort of increase the frequency of releases. So we were initially looking quarterly. Now we're going to be doing them a little more often.
And so if viewers have just joined us, a couple things, if you don't know already, this is the latest jazz title, Ornette Coleman, Change of the Century. just a beautiful album. And the packaging, like you were saying, Patrick, is amazing. And this is $39.40 US.
That was really important to us. We wanted to
Right?
get in this audiophile lane, but not, you know, I get that people will buy a really bespoke $150 MoFi thing, and I have some of those too, and they're gorgeous. I love
Absolutely.
them. But we just thought let's try to do something that doesn't break the bank, you know, and lets people get in reasonably easy.
So you're
but
almost like a budget audiophile cut,
There you
right?
go.
But I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, but I mean, the packaging and everything is just you know, incredible as well. And I'm glad that you guys are releasing more. That's great. And I mean, you know, we used to have the whole FOMO thing during COVID. I believe that's sort of behind us now. Now we can get back to, you know, not really having to worry so much that these are going to get sold out. And that brings me to another question too. So you limit these to 5,000. What happens if they're selling really well? Would you guys press more?
We have not yet looked at going back to repress anything we've done, but we could conceivably going forward look at doing certain things in higher quantities.
There you go. And they just wouldn't be numbered. I guess you'd stick with the first
Yeah, I would probably
5,000.
stick with the first 5,000 numbered and another 5 that wasn't. So
Excellent. So should we do it, Patrick? Should we tell them? Should we tell them? Okay.
I'm really excited about this one.
I'm really excited, and the reason why, because I mean, and we talked about this. We've been talking about this for the last week. It's like you and I. It's like, okay, you want something that's, you know, something new, something fresh. I mean, I'm not a brand new artist, but I mean something that hasn't been sort of pressed to death. You know, something that I think an audiophile will really enjoy. I think you nailed this one, and I know this is one of your favorite bands other than the Cars, right? I mean, so I mean, this is probably close to your heart. So
I love this album. Yeah.
I love this album. Let's do it. Here it is. I'll put the Obi strip on first here, just so you can see it, but then I'll take it right off. I'll go full screen. How's that? Hang on.
Perfect.
So the rock album. Here it is. Television's Marquee Moon.
Woohoo.
1977 it first came out. Super excited about this one. Here it is here. Again, beautiful gatefold. The band, picture of the band. And of course, there it is. This is the James Bond, the little looking through the barrel of the gun, James Bond 007.
That kind of look. Yeah.
And then I should let everyone know, this picture here was actually taken by the legendary photographer Robert Mapplethorpe. So I'll go full screen again. So
yeah, Robert and Tom Verlaine and Patti Smith were a pretty tight group.
Yeah, well, Robert Mapplethorpe actually, I believe, dated Patti Smith, and he actually took the Horses album cover as well for Patti Smith. So
Tom and
here it is, guys.
Too, I think, actually.
Yeah. And then I want to show everyone, this is funny too. We were looking at this at the beginning. So here's the tape boxes here. And you can see they actually had the song Guiding Light on tape on side A.
And swapped it.
And they swapped it out over here. So I wonder why they did that, but it flows really well. And I will let everyone know I was able to snag an original 1977 Canadian cut of Marquee Moon from my friend. It's his copy, so I was able to use it over the weekend to compare. And so we know that, you know, these Kevin Smith master engineers, they're not going to tell us their secret sauce, but what I really heard from the original versus the Rhino High Fidelity one is this. I think this one it sounded like it had much better mids. So Kevin, I think, probably adjusted the mids for sure. And there's definitely more dynamic bass on this Rhino High Fidelity cut than the original. So I know the originals go for a lot of money. You can pick this one up for $40, which of course, high quality vinyl, you know, cut by Kevin Smith and a beautiful Kevin Gray. Kevin Smith is the filmmaker, but Kevin Gray, sorry. And yeah, I mean, absolutely incredible. Yeah, I think this is a James Bond. This looks like the James Bond gun barrel thing, doesn't it? Maybe that's what it is.
You're right.
As I'm looking at it now, going, yeah. So now, in the song, if no one's familiar with Television, I mean, it's really, I would call it post-punk new wave. Is that sort of what it would be considered or classified as?
It's almost in some ways kind of pre-punk, because it's sort of really in the punk era. I mean, they came out of that scene, you know, along with the Ramones and Patti Smith and Blondie and everything at CBGBs and stuff. So they were very much a part of that New York punk scene. but I wouldn't categorize it necessarily, other than by its era, as a full-on punk album. It's got more of a post-punk vibe to it, but it's very kind of arty, avant-garde. I thought it was a nice pairing with the at Coleman, because they're both really sort of, you know, more avant-garde approaches to music, and Tom's style of soloing, and Richard Lloyd's they're both really amazing guitarists, and their interplay is just fantastic. But I think this record too, it sounds fantastic, and it's not, you know, you and I were talking about comparing this to something like Steely Dan, and I love Steely Dan, and those are great sounding records. They're wonderfully made records. This record just isn't as precious or meticulous. There's something more organic about it. But it's recorded perfectly, and it sounds so good. But I think that sort of the organic, and part of that is because I don't think there's really a lot of overdubs on the record. I think they work these songs out live pretty much, and it's pretty much how it's recorded.
And I'll say that as well. And we talked about this. There's not a lot of overdubs, and a few areas on the guitars are where I believe on Marquee Moon, but there's not any compression on this either. I mean, it's pretty much raw off the tapes, and we know that I would assume Kevin adjusted the bass and some mids, because it does sound. I think what he did compared to my original, I think it sounds absolutely brilliant right now.
It's the best I've ever heard it. Yeah.
Oh my God, it sounds good.
In a handful of reissues of this record, at least.
So I also actually streamed it on Spotify, and I did notice that there definitely was a lack of bass and lack of the mids even on my streaming compared to my Rhino Hi-Fi. So that's interesting as well.
If you also notice that the CD and streaming version of this album has a longer version of Marquee Moon, because it was edited down for the original album.
So on the original album, are we at 10 minutes on the original? I didn't look at
10:41. I think
10:41, and it keeps you engaged. I mean, if you guys, you got Tom Verlaine's guitar, you've got Richard Lloyd's guitar, and it keeps you engaged. Like that Marquee Moon song itself, it just keeps going and going, and it, you think it's going to end, and then it goes, all of a sudden stops, and it goes back to the Verlaine's vocals again by the very end. I just love the way they put it together, and it was very raw. I mean, I know they definitely did a little bit of those are the songs that they had actually sung in the clubs prior to them.
They've been playing this song for quite a while, I think.
So that Marquee Moon. So I mean, obviously they would have rehearsed that one in this, and then basically cut it. But you did mention it's very well produced. So it was actually produced by Tom Verlaine, but it was also produced by Andy Jones.
Andy Johns, who was also the engineer, and he's
Andy Johns is the engineer. So if people don't know, there's a song on the second side. Guiding Light, which was changed to the second side, has a real Rolling Stones flavor to it. And the reason for that is because Andy Johns, he was an engineer for the Rolling Stones. He was an engineer for Led Zeppelin. So they really put this album together incredibly. I might add. Yeah, as an audiophile, if you guys are looking for fresh stuff, this album will sell 5,000. This is that good. I would be surprised if it doesn't. It is a solid pick, Patrick. When you sent me this, I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? Come on. And it was cool too. In the liner notes here, guess who was a big fan? I'm not asking you, of course, but the viewers. A sort of rhetorical question. A big fan of television was John Lennon, who actually one night, and it says this, one night in 1974, John Lennon was in New York watching television. Actually watching television when television came on the screen, on the television, and he was like, "Whoa, what is this band?" But very interesting article there that was it Daniel Frickle that wrote that for you guys. So
David Frick,
David Frickle, yeah, thank you. Yeah. So yeah. So now, what more can I say about it? I'm super excited. I've listened to this album probably since it was sent to me about 10 times. So
Great.
Really enjoyed it. Well, because, I got the Steely Dans, I got the Led Zeppelins. I have all that stuff. I want something new, something exciting. And I think this is exciting. That's for sure.
Yeah. I was really happy with Mark. They start shipping on this Friday, the 12th. That the first Cars album, how well that did and how great it sounds, and it turned out fantastic, and I love that album. But it's not, the television isn't something that you hear when you turn on the radio every day, like the Cars. The Cars tracks are something that are just sort of ingrained in everybody's psyche by this point. So yeah, I think the television Marquee Moon is kind of a fresher offering. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm really excited for you guys. I mean, I think all the picks so far have been great. I mean, we had the announcement last month, the Doobie Brothers. It sounds fantastic as well, just so you know. I mean, so far, I mean, if you're trying to capture a high fidelity market, I think you've got some solid picks for this market for sure. I mean, what more can you do?
I think the Doobie Brothers sounded great too, and the response, other than, as I say, obviously we're aware of some of the shipping complaints, but the response from the standpoint of just audio and everything has been pretty uniformly positive. So I'm really happy about that.
And I should mention, I don't know if we did, but television, Marquee Moon, so everyone knows, should be, everyone on here should be buying this, because I mean, this is incredible.
Now, if you don't
everyone, if you don't own it, buy it. If you own it, buy another one, because I can tell you this is the best sounding one out there. This is the best sounding one out there. I compared it to my original 77, no question. It was actually ranked, Rolling Stone magazine, one of the top 500 greatest albums of all time. So I mean, it's an album you need to own if you're collecting records. I mean, there's no doubt. And it sounds way better than any streaming version or CD version out there.
I agree.
And it's a guitar band. I mean, it's the guitars you're going to fall in love with. You're going to fall in love with. I mean, it's really. You're a guitar guy, so I mean, you've got Richard Lloyd's guitar, you've got Tom Verlaine's guitar, two different sounding guitars, but they really come together. It's a contrast, but it's not, if that's the way I can really describe it. And it really works for this band. Clearly it does. I mean, they were quite successful in their day. And I want to just say that Tom Verlaine, rest in peace, he died about a year ago now, unfortunately. So unfortunately as well, it's really too bad.
I had the pleasure of meeting and having dinner with Tom once. He was in town playing with Patti Smith's band, actually, and invited me to the Roxy to the sound check, which was pretty cool. And Patti Smith came and sat down next to me on the stairs, and I was scared as hell because I thought she was going to say, "What are you doing?" It was really nice. But Tom and I were talking about doing a compilation, an anthology that would be television tracks and then solo Tom Verlaine tracks. And I had put this list together and we were going over it, and he, looked at a few songs. He goes, "Well, we can't have that on here. That's Richard Lloyd's solo." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's a television track and you wrote it and it's like a key track." He's like, "Yeah, but it's my compilation. We can't have his guitar solos on it." So I was like, "Okay." So that's why you've never seen that compilation.
Oh my gosh. So
he was a super nice guy though. So I really he's what an amazing musician.
Yeah,
just an amazing person. He's totally unique. Just the things he was into, and
yeah, it's very too bad. It's very sad, but I mean, yeah. If anyone, I don't know if you caught it from the top, Patrick is also going to announce some more titles later on in the show, if I'm not mistaken. For
whenever you're ready.
You want to? Well, I think we should take some comments first.
Okay,
I think
sure.
Maybe take some questions from the audience. See what we can come up with here. You saw the Concert Buddy. Yeah, that's the one thing I will say, the price point, Patrick. I mean, this is great considering, see some of these, I mean, MoFi or UHQR or APs, those are great albums as well. Great, everything's good. I understand all that. But I mean, yeah, if someone like myself that lives in Canada, this is more affordable for a, high quality audiophile pressing. So we do appreciate the price point. That's pretty awesome. Yeah. Let's see what here. David Pounds. Yes, the Rhino releases sound very good, and the prices are great. So that's really good. Dave. Yeah. He only listens to me at 1.5 speed. So I don't know if you like the normal Steve speed better. Yeah.
Better talk faster, Steve.
I should. Will both of these titles be available at the Warner Canada site?
They should be. Yeah. I mean, the only reason something wouldn't be on there is if we don't have Canadian rights for it, but we do on these. So.
Okay, and then they're asking, I've seen a lot of questions today about some more Van Morrison titles. I know you guys just released Astro Weeks for Record Store Day not long ago, the Kevin Gray cut. So
yeah, we thought about it. I'd love to do that. It's part of why we did his band in the street choir, because the first thought was Astro. Well, the first thought was Moondance, but the Moondance tapes are not in good shape, so they can't be cut from analog. So we make it around to Astro Weeks, but again, trying not to hit things that have been done a lot too hard. So
that's another thing. So Rhino High Fidelity, you guys are only cutting from analog tape going forward, or a digital.
We
tape or
haven't done
something like
digital
that?
yet, but we're going to get into that at some point because I think I said on the last time we were together, there's just too many great records from that era that, we can't just ignore those.
So are you looking to do maybe any anniversary albums over the next couple of years that sort of match the, a 40th or 50th? Would that be
We
something that?
are, we are indeed. Yes. We've got a few that I'm trying to work out. Another one, I can't tell you what it is, that has some tape damage that we're trying to
Oh
get
no.
creative to work our way around it. But
And I
if we can,
know,
it'd be huge.
and I know one of our viewers too, Lenny, he said Dio was another one that he's looking at as well. So there's I don't know if that's a possibility.
That's a possibility.
So here's the thing, Glenn. Patrick's one of the biggest Fleetwood Mac fans around. So if he can do Buckingham Nicks, he's going to. And let's talk about that so everyone understands sort of your role and how is it. It's not as easy as just phoning up Buckingham Nicks management and getting these tapes. Like, tell me the processes so everyone seems to know.
Well, it's different for different things, and I can tell you so far what we've done with this series has been with our own catalog. So it's been Warner Music, Atlantic, that kind of stuff. Whereas Buckingham Nicks is not something that we control. It's something that we'd have to make a deal with Buckingham Nicks.
Okay.
Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks. So we talked to them about this back in the 90s when I was here, and it's something we've always wanted to do. And I as you said, I can assure you, if it becomes possible, we'll absolutely get it out. So
yeah, I mean that one definitely, like the Buckingham Nicks, they're definitely needs a repress. I mean, I think I have a Canadian version, and I mean those are going for a lot of money right now for the Canadian originals as well, right? I mean, probably upwards to $100, $150 for a decent copy, that's for sure.
Yeah, I have mine that I bought when I was a teenager. It's not in great shape, unfortunately, but
yeah,
part of why I want to do it again. So
I was going to say, there you're motivated to do that. So we're getting some good feedback, great picks. The Ottawa community desperately needs new blood. Forever Changes when? So Forever Change. We talked about that last time. What was the?
Forever Changes. I love that album. It'd be a great one to do for sure. It's just that has been done quite a bit. So just trying to navigate.
And that's the thing, and I appreciate you're trying to find titles that aren't overly done, first of all, not a million different copies that even Rhino's done over the years. So you want something that also too, the tapes are really in good condition where Kevin can work with them and do sprinkle his Kevin Gray magic over them, right? And make them the best they can be. Yeah.
And I think, as I said, we're trying to raise the level of some of the titles. So I think, there might be things that go, oh wow, somebody else did that. But it's like, well, these people will be excited. So yeah. They look great.
They look like, guys, I mean, it's so glossy. It's beautiful. I mean, yeah. I mean, the quality, I think the quality for $40 is what people, will really appreciate as well if they haven't picked up any of the Rhino high fidelity records. I mean, the quality is just incredible, Patrick. Amazing.
Yeah. Well, I know some people have expressed frustration about not being able to get these in stores, and that they're D2C. I have to tell you that part of the reason we're able to do them for $40 is because, we're not selling them at wholesale. So, yeah.
So we're still getting some questions. If Liam probably didn't catch the top in terms of shipping issues, let's just address those again so everyone knows.
Yeah, we're, as I said earlier, as frustrated as you all are by that, I am incredibly too, because making these records and just, putting a lot of care into them to make sure they're as beautiful as I think they are, and then have them get mangled in the mail. So we did go with the Whiplash containers, and we're going to stick with that, I believe. I don't really have a solid connection with our shipping people, but some of our other Rhino.com people are, trying to navigate that. So we're trying to make it better, and we're pushing them very hard. So we get it. It's a real blemish on an otherwise great thing. So.
Yeah, let's hopefully this round, is a lot better. So, viewers, we promise more announcements. Patrick, do you want to talk more announcements?
Okay. Well, we just told you what the January titles are, Ornette, Coleman, and Television, but I'm going to tell you.
Let me put them up so if anyone misses. I mean, we're getting these come out for order on Friday on the Rhino website, rhino.com. I got to pick up Coleman. You got to pick up Television. I mean, absolutely, Kevin crushed this one. Like I said before, I was able to compare it to my Canadian 1977 cut, and definitely better mids on this one, definitely more bass on this one, not by a lot, like Kevin didn't like overdo it, but
No,
definitely,
it sounds the way it should sound.
and it's not compressed at all. So I mean,
Yeah.
it has that raw, I mean, that has that raw television sound to it. And I mean, especially when you guys sit and listen to Marquee Moon for 10 minutes and 40 seconds, you're going to hear it all, especially Lloyd's guitar and Verlaine's guitars, and the contrast between the two that come together. Really appreciate that, because I mean, they were on the circuit for a long time with those songs prior to this being cut, right? I mean,
Potentially, yeah.
in the New York sort of concert circuits or the club circuit. So yeah. Okay, what are the next two? When do they come? When would they come out? The next two, first
The
of all.
next two will be on March 8th, and the first one is the Cars Candio.
Yes.
And a little interesting tidbit about that: when we did the first Cars, I had originally planned to do the Cars and Candio.
Like together?
Yes. And
Oh.
we decided to swap it out because we thought, well, we should put a little more diversity in. It'd be good to do a jazz title. So that's Coltrane. We added the Coltrane sound kind of at the last minute. But Kevin had already cut Candio, so we've been sitting on it for a while.
Oh, you've been sitting on it for, oh, nice. Oh,
And
my
it
gosh.
sounds amazing. The other title, and just to let you know, we're veering from the rock and jazz formula a little bit this time. We're going to kind of mix that up a bit too.
Okay.
The other title will be American Beauty by Grateful Dead.
Beautiful.
So I think people will get pretty excited about that, but don't say yet, because I'm going to tell you the April titles too.
What?
And the April titles will be coming April 5th, and these are for Jazz Appreciation Month. So we're kind of picking up the jazz titles here. So John Coltrane's Ole Coltrane and Miles Davis Tutu.
Tutu, okay. I have Tutu on CD, so now I could get it on vinyl. Well,
yeah, when we first were considering that, I thought, gosh, given when that record was done, I hope it wasn't digital, and it's not. So.
Yeah. So American Beauty needs 20K. So going back, so the viewers didn't catch this, you're doing 5,000. Are you doing 5,000 on all of these still, or depending on demand, or what would be?
I'm not sure. I think these, as we talked about, these could be 10, and it might be that the first 5,000 would be numbered and the second 5 would.
Just not have a number on it at all. Just okay. So
we'll mine, because my promos don't have numbers on it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, mine. Yeah. I want to appreciate. I mean, I don't have numbers on mine either, so there's just zeros across. So yeah, I think a lot of people are excited about Candio. Do you feel? I mean, I'm assuming you have the test pressing. So the Candio test pressing, did it blow your mind? Obviously,
yes, it did. Yes, it did. And as you and I were talking about this earlier,
yes.
As much as I love that first Cars album, Candio is my favorite. I think they kind of raised the bar, and maybe it's just because I have such a strong association with the record from when it came out. But it's also, you don't hear those songs as much, so it's not as kind of just as radio. I mean, Let's Go and some of those things you do hear, but yeah, it sounds phenomenal. So
Dean, no pre-orders when it's released. Tell us the dates again. So that will be March 8th.
Yep. For Cars and Grateful Dead.
Okay.
And April 5th for Coltrane and Miles Davis.
That'll be exciting. And these are, and again, you're trying to pick titles that haven't been pressed to death or anything like that. So is that difficult too in your job?
It is. I mean, I'm always on Discogs looking at, when was something pressed last? Where was it available? Was it an audio file release? And it's hard to completely sidestep that. And I can tell you too, the Doobie Brothers, The Captain and Me was something that we did because it was the anniversary of the record.
Okay.
And the band specifically asked us to do something with it. It was our idea to do the hi-fi thing, which they completely loved. And then, they contributed the book as an autograph book as a bundle. And then we took the notes from the book too. So, but that's another one of those records I bought when it came out. That was the first Doobie Brothers record I ever bought. So it's
very sentimental to you. I mean, that in Candio, right? I mean, Candio, we were talking before we got on live, is sort of your go-to Cars record.
Yeah.
I mean, we know the self-titled has it's like a greatest hits album all in one. This has a little bit more. I think really they came to their own in the Candio.
Yeah.
Candio time, right? I
totally agree. I worked at a Peaches when that record came out, and we listened to it incessantly. And I think that's part of my attraction to it too. So. Yeah.
And I think Candio I believe it was a MoFi cut at one time, was not?
Yeah, there likely could have been. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember. Here, how about Ry Cooder Jazz? Is that something that we could possibly see?
That's not a bad idea.
Okay.
We talked about some Rycooter. I don't know if what it was we were actually, which one we had been talking about, but yeah, I'd love to do some Rycooter. I saw somebody else said Little Feet too, and
Yeah, I saw that.
that too. We may get around to some of those. So,
So I
great.
mean,
A lot of those are great sounding records too.
so
But we've been
possibly,
doing like anniversary things around Little Feet too. So
that's two
trying to make
things.
sure we're not hitting it too hard, but
So possibly more cars in the future. Sounds like possibly.
we could. I mean, we'll see how Candio does. I could see any chance for Devo. Ooh, good idea.
There you go. And I mean, there's the thing. You're looking for stuff that hasn't been overdone. I mean, Rycooter Boomer Story was done by MoFi. Still, I think, is it still available on my phone? I don't know. But I mean, like I said, you're looking for stuff that hasn't been pressed to death, right?
Yeah, as much as we can. I mean, I can't say that American Beauty hasn't been done a lot, but
yeah. And how are the tapes on American Beauty? As far as you know, they're still pretty decent, huh?
They're great. Yeah, Stephen Barncard, who engineered that record and basically co-produced it, just was amazing at getting particularly acoustic guitar sounds. If you listen to the David Crosby, If I Can Only Remember My Name,
amazing.
It's so great. I had well, Stephen's interviewed for the notes and talks a lot about how the record was made, but I spoke to him about this when I was working on the David Crosby record and asked him how he got Crosby's sound, and he told me, I'm sitting here writing down the mics and yeah, it's really great. And he said too, he goes, part of what makes David's guitar sound so great is how good he was at tuning it. He had such a great ear and was so meticulous about getting all the overtones just exactly right. And he said that really made a big difference. So.
Any other questions for Patrick? I know, again, you're out there trying to find stuff that hasn't been, pressed to death. It's difficult though. I mean, we know as audiophiles, as music lovers, we want the Led Zeppelins, we want all these ones, but it's not that easy, right? It can't be. Otherwise, everyone would do it.
Yeah, and that's that. You asked me kind of how we come up with these things. Some things are easier to navigate than others, and some artists, we're probably not going to easily do Madonna or things like that. So we're doing Madonna releases, but I mean, doing something like that is such a heavy lift, and there's so much back and forth. And I think that we're sort of looking at things because we're talking about some things that are UK rep too, and that's it's a tougher thing for us to navigate. So.
And let's talk about that again. I know on our last show, I mean, I know there's been a lot of talk about Black Sabbath self-titled. I've pushed it with you a lot. I've pushed it on my channel a lot. I mean, you've heard it from me a lot. I've texted you I want that, right? I know there's issues between the North American Black Sabbath self-titled and the UK, or what goes on there?
We basically, they were signed to a label that is controlled by a different entity in the UK now. So we basically have just the rights that we had when they were signed to Warner in the day, which is, US and Canada. So we have rights to do with that. That stuff's not a problem because that is, Warner signed repertoire and we have the right to do that. It's the content that's actually covered by the Warner UK group, the catalog group. So it's, all the Parlophone stuff and, Echo and the Bunnymen and the Smiths and Echo and the Bunnymen. You beat me to it.
You got to look at the Echo and the Bunnymen. I mean, just if you have an opportunity to do that, some good stuff there.
Would love to, and not to be ruled out. Just something that isn't a quick turn, basically. So,
Melinda said, "Thank you, Patrick, for talking to us, Vinyl Freaks. If Candio is as good as the Cars debut release, wow! Which I think you said it's even better.
It will be. It sounds fantastic, and I can tell you, the other thing that I had planned for the Cars when we did that, I ended up interviewing Elliot for the notes, Easton. But I had also reached out to Roy Thomas Baker to talk to him, and we just weren't able to hook it up. But we did in time for this. So this one is an interview that I did with Roy Thomas Baker about the making of the record. So
very nice.
Super nice guy.
This is another thing too. I mean, I think a new generation. I mean, I'm not the baby boom generation. What's that generation? Is it Generation X, whatever it is? But looking at some newer stuff like a Depeche Mode or the Smiths or something like that. Is that something that possibly can help you open up more of a broader market to a different demographic as well? Is that something you want to look at?
No, that's what I'm saying. We talk about that stuff. Our D2C team, our Rhino.com team,
Yeah.
kind of throw things around and wish lists and stuff. And I can tell you, we had a meeting earlier today. We were talking about we need to do some Echo and the Bunnyman, and so we're trying. We're trying.
So you guys are talking the same stuff that we talk on our shows all the time. It's the same stuff. It's just a matter of, like you said, if you can get Led Zeppelin, which would be the grail of all grails, you're going to get it. It's just a matter of negotiating that and seeing.
Yeah, and it involves a lot of high end people. I do not deal directly with Jimmy Page. It's like the president of our company. Actually, the head of global catalog deals with Jimmy Page. So yeah.
Wow. Our Rex V Spinner Patrick, will the volume of titles increase on the new releases or 5,000 per now?
I think some of these may be 10, but only the first 5 would be numbered.
Someone's asking about subscription for these titles, like maybe what like Acoustic Sounds does. Is that something that Rhino would think about?
We've talked about doing some subscription things in relation to some other titles, but yeah, that's a great idea actually. Oh, Patti Smith, yeah. Unfortunately, that's Sony BMG.
So then Horses as well, Sony BMG.
Yeah, all Arista records.
Darn it. Okay. Oh man. Yeah, like someone just answering there. There you go. So yeah, so it just depends. So I guess obviously if you get some of the bigger titles, you're going to go 5,000. The first 5,000 will be numbered, and after that, the other 5,000 won't be numbered. So there you go, gentle.
I think that's what we'd do. Yeah.
Yeah. I think he had a lot. Jimmy needs to bite the bullet and meet up with Kevin and Bernie. I think that would be the most incredible thing, having Kevin Gray and Jimmy Page and yourself in the Coherent Studios to basically cut these tapes again.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be something.
It would be cool. I mean, I think it's it's when you work with somebody like that, you kind of have to convince them that this is worth doing. He redid the Led Zeppelin catalog, like 10 years ago or something, those big deluxe box sets, and he oversaw the mastering and the alternate material and all that. And so I think you kind of have to tell them in a way, it's like, look, we're doing something here that's different than what you did, and it's not necessarily better, but it's part of a line that we're doing. And some of the things that we've requested to do, I've sent copies of the previous titles to them so they can see what they look like, and they're like, whoa, yeah. So if we get to the point that we can send him some things that might impress him, maybe he'd be open to it. But
so pretty much I'll tell the audience today, anything that we've talked about on the shows or my show or any of the shows, you at Rhino have already basically put it down on paper or are looking at the possibilities. So it's just a matter of negotiations, if anything, right? I mean, that's pretty much what it boils down to.
And I have a pretty solid wish list for this year. But I'm looking into next year and, keeping this going and trying to keep raising the level of titles that we can get access to. So, and again, if these perform well and they get in front of the right people to see how great they are, maybe they'll be open to it.
So I mean, so some of the anniversary stuff, like we talked about at the beginning, like the 40th or 50th anniversary, I think there's a lot of good stuff that you guys might have, Ronnie, I think it's Ronnie Dio. I mean, there's an anniversary of his stuff. Something like that.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff around anniversaries, just even for retail and D2C. But I think that certainly. I mean, I was mentioning to you that I had a really big title. This will give you a little bit of info.
Ooh.
That the tape's damaged. I'm trying to fix, but trying to hit the 50th anniversary of that one. So
it's a 50th anniversary. Tapes are damaged, but would there not be a backup copy somewhere you guys can grab, or does that not work like that?
There's a safety, but if I can use the safety to help fix the other tape. When I produced a 50th anniversary set of CSNY's Deja Vu a few years back, and Chris Bellman recut the album from the tape, but the tape is damaged. The beginning of Carry On had some dropout on it, just the top of the tape. And we actually convinced, maybe I told you this story before, but we convinced them to let Chris go in and cut a new section into the tape.
Oh, wow.
So that he could cut from analog. So we got him every source we had. He got the closest thing he could, got it to match, put it on tape, and then just cut that part into the tape and then cut it from that. So there are some things we can do. Some tapes are more damaged than others. So that one was just, not that long of a section of it that had to be fixed. Others are kind of more damaged throughout. So I had one on the schedule for this year that I found that the tapes were trashed, and I had to swap it out with another one. So
if you found they're trash, will you go back to those at some point if you find a safety copy, or you're not sure?
Well, we we largely have safety copies of most things, but I'm trying to avoid those where we can. And sometimes what we have too are EQ copies, because
Okay.
a lot, you know how that works when somebody's cutting,
Hmm.
they make a copy of the tape with their EQ settings so that other copies for pressing around the world can be used. So we have got some of those, but
Well, and I guess too, I mean, what we've learned as well is a lot of times master engineers do make a backup copy of their mastered EQ for safety purposes as well, which worked really well for the latest Asia cut that Bernie Grenman did for Analog Productions, right? So
yeah.
here we go. Here are
I
the
haven't heard
Rhino.
any of those.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How are they?
I think they sound really. I think they sound really good. I really do. I mean, 45 RPM cut. The tapes are quite fresh. Not bad. Are the Rhino exclusives red vinyl, digital, or analog as well?
They are LP only. Yeah, LPs and 45s.
Okay. What's this one? For your in-house titles, consider the Lego new business model. Use online voting between, say, 3 titles. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
And the most popular gets the nod.
No, that's a great idea. We've thought about doing that
Okay.
actually.
Yeah.
That may be happening at some point. So yeah, that's just kind of fun too, to get engaged with people and get an idea of what people like. I mean, I've been coming to Steve hey, Steve, tell me, give me a few ideas for some 50th anniversary things. And
Well, I already told you Black Sabbath self-titled, Patrick. Yeah.
I hear you.
If I ever get that, I'm getting my name on that album somehow. I'll tell you that. I'm promoting that one. No, yeah, but thank you for doing that. I definitely given you a lot of ideas on the 40th and 50th. Hopefully something happens there. But I think for like all of us, we just grow impatient because we just want it yesterday. You know what I mean? And I think as an A&R, you really tell us, sort of, get off the ledge a little bit and sort of say, hey, it takes time. I mean, not only that, I mean, it takes time to get the packaging and it all printed and all that too, right? I mean, nothing just happens the next day.
No, there's a lot that goes into it. I mean, just getting somebody lined up to do notes. I've been trying really as much as I can to get somebody involved in the making of the record, do the notes. In the case of television, and then some of these have been done by writers who have interviewed people and then turned those into the notes, which is what David Frick did for Marquee Moon. But so it's, coordinating that and getting people to get back to you. I've got the 2 jazz titles I mentioned, the John Coltrane. We went, I tried to get in touch with Reggie Workman, who is literally the only person from the session that's still with us. And finally, Ashley Kahn, who knows him, reached out to him, and we kind of went back and forth on that. But he ended up not being involved, but it's just sometimes trying to find, like I mentioned, the Roy Thomas Baker thing that we couldn't make happen in time. But finding photos, all that kind of stuff. And, we've got a pretty good thing going with Kevin. We basically, our tape library pulls tapes and messenger them to him, and he cuts them and sends them back. We scan them before they go out, so we have the tape boxes to use for the artwork. And Candio is coming in March 8th.
March the 8th. And I just love this for, the tape geeks out there, right? When you guys do, and we talked about this, I'll put this right up so everyone can see it. I'm sure you'll see it. But I mean, yeah, wrong one here. Hang on. So yeah, look at that.
Yeah, I love that stuff. Yeah. That's part of my favorite part of these is just, this seems like such a cool.
So Marquee Moon on the master was 10 minutes and 41 seconds, as you can see. And misspelled. There you go. I didn't even notice that. Very good. I like detail. I didn't see that. But I like the fact, I mean, Guiding Light, getting back to it, the Guiding Light song on side B really has a Rolling Stones flavor to it. It absolutely does. And the reason for it is Andy Johns, who produced, engineered a lot of, I think it was Sticky Fingers, XL and Main Street, a lot of those albums. He did Led Zeppelin's Coda. He would have done Led Zeppelin 4, Physical Graffiti. I mean, he was really involved in some of the the bigger albums. I think he did Jethro Tull's Stand Up. I mean, this guy did a lot of stuff. I mean, his brother obviously was big part of the industry as well. So yeah. I'm really excited for this one. When I was excited to do this, and I can't believe you announced all these ones. So when you said you're going to bring goodies, I wasn't expecting more announcements. So let's go back here. We're getting to the top of the hour. So on Friday, okay, we've got Change of the Century, Ornette Coleman. We've got television, Marquee Moon. 5,000. And then on March the 8th, what do we have, Patrick?
Cars Candio and Grateful Dead American Beauty.
And then in April,
John Coltrane, Ole Coltrane, and Miles Davis Tutu for Jazz Appreciation Month.
you guys, some exciting times, that's for sure. And I know if you missed it at the top, yes, Patrick's well aware of the packaging issues. I have no problem forwarding issues. If you guys want to email me, stevewestman@rocketmail.com. It's also in the profile of my YouTube channel here. And as Patrick knows, I forward those off to you right away, and you do what you need to do from there. So hopefully that gets solved if you have issues, that's for sure.
And some of those are taking a while. I apologize for that, but I'm trying to get stuff round up for everybody and find mailers that I can send them. I did send somebody had damaged records. I sent a new set and they got damaged too. So.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's frustrating.
That's frustrating. I'm hoping to get some of those Whiplash mailers in house so we can send them out that way. And every time I get one from somebody, I save it. So
okay, if it's not Rhino High Fidelity, what's Rhino sending their other records out in? It's not that aren't getting as damaged. Are they doing something different than what
I don't really know because I never order from them. I'm not sure.
Mono or stereo for the Coltrane?
Stereo.
I thought so. Yeah. Which okay, so you're excited about all of them. I mean, which one really? I mean, the Candio blew you away, obviously, and I think that's a sentimental thing from a jazz perspective. What'd you think of the Miles, the Tutu? Like, what do those sound like when you get?
They sound great. They sound really good. I mean, the Coltrane is more in my wheelhouse for the kind of stuff I'm into. I was the sax player in college and stuff like that, and I've always been a huge Coltrane fan. And that era, sort of that post-bop era is kind of my favorite. The Miles Davis album is something that is very unique and is, just kind of that thing that Miles did, always pushing the boundaries and coming up with something new. And I don't think I appreciated it as much when it came out. When I listened to the test pressing, I was like, wow, this is actually really good. And it is really something unique. And, the sort of collaboration largely with Marcus Miller, who did a lot of the, production and instruments, even outside of playing bass. So, but yeah, it was an enjoyable listen. And I was really glad that we picked that one to do. Plus one of the coolest album covers of all time. Africa Brass is an Impulse album. So there
you go. So that's the thing about Ornette Coleman. I don't think Miles Davis really appreciated his sort of avant-garde sort of style. I mean, I think he really didn't really like the Coleman sound, did he?
I don't think
from my readings.
Yeah, Miles kind of went in a different direction. I mean, he certainly investigated and introduced Coltrane to sort of a modal approach and moving away from standard, harmony and things like that, but not as freeform as what Ornette Coleman was.
Well, but even Kind of Blue, I mean, Miles had sort of his notes for it, gave it to Evans, and said, "Here you go." I mean, that was, I think, pretty freeformed as well. I mean,
it is, really. But it's a little more structured. It's based around, an actual chord progression and various modes around that. Whereas I think the Ornette Coleman is just, it is truly free form.
And I really enjoyed this album. And like I said, The Shape of Jazz to Come, which was, I guess, recorded 6 months before this one. I mean, it could have been a double album. I mean, it has the same quartet. It's avant-garde, but I mean, I think they had it together. I mean, this is, it doesn't sound like, we're just going to decide on just, cutting, what is it, 7 tracks and putting it down. It's not like that. I mean, these guys,
I can't think of his name, the guy that does Bob's Burgers.
Oh, I don't know.
He's the voice of Bob.
Yeah.
He made a record a couple of years ago. It's like a jazz piano album.
Okay.
And he doesn't know how to play. It's just him like completely just extemporaneously making stuff up. And it's you listen to it, it's like, it's actually surprisingly not as bad as that sounds, but
people are going to have to buy it on Discogs now. So you got some positive here. Ordered twice, Rhino up here. So Music Sanctuaries from Canada, I believe. Both times the mailers are in excellent quality, 2 albums. So that's really nice to hear.
That pleases me.
Roxy is not music is not
anymore, unfortunately. I wish I'd do Avalon in a heartbeat.
The Coleman Atlantic CD box certainly would be keen in those LP records. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're like American Beauty, great choice.
Thank you.
I'm excited. I have the MoFi 45. It's the 45 cut. I've got the Bellman cut as well, so I'm going to get the Kevin Gray cut as well and make it a triad.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the ones where we sent some copies of our previous titles up to Grateful Dead management, and they they were excited about it. They're like, oh, by all means, yeah. So they were way into it. Has an American Beauty been done almost? It's been done a lot. I mentioned that earlier. It has, and we just did some 50th anniversary stuff around that. But it's just such a great sounding record, and like I said, we're trying to, you know, get some higher profile titles into the mix too.
So everyone wants, it's Friday. You probably midnight on Friday. I know they want to order now. I think television is going to be a hot commodity for people. And guys, both of these albums, I mean, I'll put them up. Patrick, you can put your Coleman up for everyone as well. Definitely worth the price of admission, $39.95 plus shipping. Incredible. Like I was saying, I compared this to my 77 Canadian cut that I have. And, you know, Kevin Gray and his secret sauce definitely played around with a little bit, and it sounds fantastic. I mean, on the mid, and you're shaking your head, so you know the mids and the bass and whatnot. I mean, you guys are in for a real treat with this one. Yeah. And I don't know how many times I played Marquee Moon, the last track, because I just love the guitars of both Lloyd and Verlaine. I just love the way they came together. I think those were overdubbed too, if I'm not mistaken.
They probably had to do that. Overdubs here and there, but
but no compression on this stuff at all. It's the raw tapes, right?
That's another one of those. When I got the test pressing for that, I was just completely blown away, and and a record I've listened to a lot and have had many different versions of it, several of which I was involved in. So hearing it that way was like, wow.
And it doesn't even compare. If you listen, we did this last night. I listened to the Rhino version, then I went to my Spotify stream. Not even comparison. It just doesn't have that same feel to it. I mean, I think if anyone has never even heard television, you're going to be in for a real treat. And if you have an old copy of television, you're going to be really, really impressed with what Kevin Gray and the Rhino team has done with this one. Absolutely. I saw a question.
Peter
how much?
Green.
Yeah, I saw that. Hang on, we'll do that one first.
Peter Green. Yes, we have then play on. We actually were looking at that as a high fidelity, but there are some tape issues, primarily because of the difference between the UK and US versions of the album. There isn't one complete version of the analog tape to cut from. So we may try to figure that out at some point and do something, because I'd love to do that record. But.
And I think in Canada, I don't know how much they are. I mean, if it's $40 US, I would assume it is about $60 Canadian, if I'm not mistaken, plus shipping. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know that
one. Any direct to Canada shipping deals, Patrick? Well, I don't think are you?
Yeah, not really too privy to that, but.
And then I'm seeing a lot of Sabbath. I mean, obviously, if you can get Sabbath, you will. Right now, if you can get Led Zeppelin, you will. So, I mean, the stuff that Rhino's working on, Patrick is working on this stuff. If they can do it, they will. That's sort of what's the theme is.
Yeah, Black Sabbath is in the sights.
Mm-hmm.
We'd love to get around that. Some of the things, it's like there's other things going on with other releases, and we have to sort of navigate around that sometimes too. So, as we're talking, there's anniversary things that are coming out. We just did a Black Sabbath picture disc box on D2C, and
I saw that.
Yeah.
So I was mentioning different demographic. I'm not a baby boomer, 50-year-old. I mean, looking at stuff from the 80s that I grew up, 90s. I mean, you guys are looking at different demographics at some point as well, right? I mean, it's something that some of the to get a younger generation, to get more younger people involved with vinyl. I mean, I think that's really important. Yeah. But it also depends on analog tape, because you guys are in the audiophile record business, so you want stuff from the master tape, not a digital source or digital file, I should say.
No, and we definitely want to work our way into some more recent stuff. I completely agree. And as you said, it's just trying to figure out what kinds of things we're looking at. So many things. Most everything's recorded on Pro Tools, or at least digitally these days.
Yeah, exactly.
Funkadelic, we don't have any Funkadelic anymore, unfortunately. But yeah, it's just we're going to have to navigate the digital thing at some point. Oh, Adventure. I love that album too. Yeah, if Marquee Moon does well, we definitely will look at Adventure.
So buy Marquee Moon. There it is.
If you want Adventure, buy Marquee Moon.
Well, thank you so much. I think we're over our time. This has been awesome. Again, I think just let the folks know. We'll talk about Friday's release. We got television, Marquee Moon, Ornette, Coleman, change of. I can't even get it here. There it is. There. Change of the century, and then what's coming up after that again?
Cars, Candio, Grateful
March
Dead
8th.
Beauty on March
8th.
Yep. And then April 5th, John Coltrane, Ole Coltrane, and Miles Davis Tutu.
Lovely. Well, I guess we won't see each other for a while. You sort of beat the punch here on these ones, but hopefully we'll have other big announcements sometime later this year.
Yeah,
awesome.
Definitely. We've got some good things coming up. I've just not been given clearance to talk about those yet. But.
I'm excited. Well, thank you for doing this on the channel. This has been great. Good luck on the sales this on Friday. I'm excited to see how they do. I think Marquee Moon, the television, will probably do the same as the cars. I mean, I can't imagine.
I have a feeling it'll be.
This is fresh. This is fresh stuff. This is something new. It isn't Steely Dan any longer. It's something new to talk about. So all these YouTube streams, we can talk about television and all this fun stuff now. It should be good.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, Patrick.
Thanks for having me.
Bye-bye.
Bye.